All right, ladies and gentlemen, although I suspect hardly anybody's awake, it is 2:54 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That being said, um, I just felt compelled to talk tonight. As you can read, whether you're watching it live or pre-recorded by the time you see it, um, the what do you call it? Our, the title reads "Some Info on the Implementing of the Seven Noahide Laws." I have a bunch of information here. This will take me a while. This is one of the reasons I think, I'm doing it this late. Um, if I don't get very many views, that's fine. I want to get this taken care of. I hope somebody gets something out of it. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. Um, that being said, because I've been doing a lot of research and I don't even know what this is about. But that being said, if even just one person wakes up to this nonsense, great, and repents, accepts Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, or if he or she has that already, maybe they can start to learn some things and get more motivated to look into things, think for themselves, ask the Father to give them the Holy Spirit to lead them in this too. That being said, folks, um, because a lot of claims are being made about the seven Noahide laws, and they do look good. They really look good on the surface. All right. Um, Now, when I say this, folks, there's a lot of sub laws to it. There's a lot of conditions to it, and there are people that have to really look into this, and you see just how much of a respecter of persons it is. In fact, to give you more of an accurate setting of it, um, you know, the people that are not considered Jews are looked at as subhuman. They're looked at as animals, and that's why they think they can do. And even then, with the animal laws, they don't do it according to the correct Torah. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, and I've done this before, but I'm going to do it again. Um, I will put them up here on the screen, and we'll read. We'll read them, and you'll see how good they look. Therefore, how deceptive they truly are. That being said, let's go over these. Number one, and keep the. Well, actually, I'll just start from the beginning. I mean, this is even AI, which I despise normally. But this is true here. The seven Noahide laws, as traditionally listed in rabbinic literature like the Talmud, which is in the Sanhedrin 56a. Now, that's not being complete. It's Sanhedrin 56a and 56b, folks, because there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of reading in between this. But anyway, Sanhedrin 56a are a set of universal moral imperatives meant for all mankind, and traditional order they compromise. 1. Idolatry. Do not worship false gods or idols. Okay, on the surface that looks good. 2. Blasphemy. Do not curse or profane God. Okay, continues to be good. 3. Murder. Do not take a human life. Do not murder. Okay. 4. Theft. Do not steal or rob. 5. Sexual immorality. Do not engage in forbidden acts like incest, adultery, or bestiality. 6, eating a limb from a live animal. Do not consume flesh cut from a living creature. Well, that's actually understandable to me, although I don't need the 7 Noahide laws from the Babylonian Talmud. I just don't need it. And I say that because, I mean, just, how people around the world will eat live seafood. It's a regular thing in certain areas of the world. And I think that's that is cruel to whatever fish or, But anyway, 7, courts of justice, and this is key, folks. Establish a legal system in courts to enforce the first 6 laws. Would you like to explore how these laws are derived from the Torah or learn more about the obligations of a Noahide? All right. Well, I can get rid of it now. That being said, folks, and our dog Ayla just has to do this to me as I'm going live. I might have to put all my 3 big dogs out. I know, it's every time. You're doing just fine. I'll tell you what, folks, I apologize for this. I'm going to take a couple, 2-3 minutes to get all of my 3 big dogs out on their chains. I will be back ASAP. Come on. Let's go. You're staying out there for a while, too. Come here. Come on. You're all excited. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Come here. There you go. Good boy. Get you on your chain. Come on. Boy. Okay. Sorry about that. I have all my big dogs out, and they're staying out for a little while. All right. I just read the 7 Noahide laws to you from the Babylonian Talmud, 56a and 56b. And on the surface, they look just fine. That being said, folks, when I'm looking at this, because the most powerful Jewish organization that I know of that does their takanot, Torah, as in they have the right to change or negate biblical law that can make a new Torah, a whole new Tanakh or Old Testament. Looking up, I am looking at now, and I will put it on here and read it so you can see it. It's called Torah Musings. Here we are. Where is it? Hold on. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah, this is the site called that reads Torah Musings. Okay. And what it gets into is the sub-laws a little bit here on a general level. Keep in mind these articles, they're very informative, and I'm thankful for them that I can, but they're, very simple. It gets a lot more complicated, and I wouldn't blame anybody for not wanting to listen to a professor deal. It gets very boring. But anyway, this is by Moshe Kurtz, okay? And it said the Lamdis on the Parsha, the Vayazlach. All right. Question: did the inhabitants of the city of Shechem deserve to be killed? And I'll have to explain this. On the third day, when they were in pain, Shimon and Levi, two of Yaakov's sons, brothers of Dinah, each took his sword, came upon the city unawares, and slew all the males. They put their Chamor and his son, Chamor and his son to the sword, took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went away. Now that comes from Genesis 34, verses 25 and 26. Now, when you read it, it's obvious. I have my own thoughts on it, but let's continue this, because their father Yaakov was not a very happy man over this. Following Dinah's abduction and rape, her brothers Shimon and Levi took up arms to avenge her dishonor. However, it was not sufficient for them to mete out punishment to the immediate culprit, Shechem, but they additionally wrought havoc upon the entire city. On a general level, we may inquire whether the male citizens of the city truly deserved to die for a deed that was not their own. Irrespective of whether it was the correct course of action, it remains unclear why the Torah specifies that Shechem and his father, Chamor, perished by the sword, whereas it refrains from revealing the form of death for the rest of the male inhabitants. I'll give you a little bit of very simple analysis here. It's on an elementary level. I'm glad I don't remember being circumcised when I was, I think, anywhere from a few minutes to 24 hours old. The doctor more than likely shoved a vitamin K pill down my throat. That way my blood would clot. That's what vitamin K does. And they, hence I was circumcised. And I'm sure I was bawling through the whole thing. Now, back in Abraham's day, Avram's day yet at that time. No, I correct that. He was Abraham by them. My bad. He became Abraham, Genesis 17. But anyway, they didn't have vitamin K pills or capsules. They didn't have syringes and stuff to inject an infant. They may have done that to me, either some kind of a pill or some kind of injection. Point is, so what is the day that your vitamin K peaks the most in your entire life? Well, it's the 8th day. Now you read Genesis 17, and the babies that, on their 8th day, they were to be circumcised. Yes, Abraham did it when he was 99. Ishmael was done when he was 13 years old. And your first 2 days, you're pretty sore and feverish and all that. You're at a very vulnerable stage physically. On your 3rd day, you're really bad too, but that's when you start to slowly heal, folks. Simon and Levi knew what they were doing. Okay, they knew when to attack a whole city. It's obvious. There is a classical debate between the Rambam and Ramban regarding whether Shimon and Levi were in principle justified in the vigilantism, which centers on how one interprets the Noahide commandment of Dinim. The Rambam writes in his Mishnah Torah, Law of Kings and Wars, chapter 9, verse 14, that the mitzvah of Dinim, it should read N-A-N, but anyway, enjoins non-Jews to enforce the other 6 Noahide laws. Now, let's be clear here. There were no Jews at that time yet. They were Hebrews by then. That, when Lot was taken prisoner and all that, and Noah and his 318 men had to go and free him and whatever. That one guy who had escaped got away and formed Avram the Hebrew, as in Genesis chapter 4, verse 13 in most English translations. understand, my Jewish counterparts, they like to call all these people Jews when that didn't come into effect at that time. And really, they were nicknamed it when you go to 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 6, when they drove out the Jews. Okay? Mainly talking about the Judahites and the Benjamites. The 10 southern tribes were taken captive by them. Let's continue. How must the Noahides fulfill the commandment to establish law and courts? They are obligated to set up judges and magistrates in every major city to render judgment concerning the 6 mitzvos and to admonish, you can just say mitzvos, okay, it doesn't really matter, and to admonish the people regarding their observance. The Noahide who transgresses the 7 commands shall be executed by decapitation. For this reason, all the inhabitants of Shechem were obligated to die. Shechem kidnapped, they observed and were aware of his deeds, but did not judge him. Okay, again, this is not backed up in the Torah yet. And even though I do believe that Moshe wrote Genesis or Bereshith, the real commandments, the instructions did not come until when they escaped from Egypt, when they left Egypt, Mitzrayim. And so in Exodus it started, and a lot of it became very clear from Moshe to the Israelites in Leviticus, Vayikra, as we say in Hebrew. Continuing on, when Gentiles were only given 7 general commandments, neglecting to adhere to even one of them can result in the death penalty. Thus, the Rambam rules that since the male inhabitants of Shechem failed to perform their duty of bringing Shechem to justice, they had violated the principle of dinim and were liable to the death penalty, and which was facilitated by Shimon and Levi. Ramban is in Genesis chapter 14:13, however, vehemently disagrees with the Rambam and takes his to ask on several grounds. In other words, what they're expecting is that the Shechemites were supposed to know these supposed instructions from the oral laws, just say Talmud, before that was even given yet. And way before it was ever written in the Jerusalem Talmud, and then eventually the more authoritative of the two, the Babylonian Talmud. This is ridiculous. 1, on a fundamental level, Rambam is misconceptualized the principle of dinim. It is not a simple mandate to regulate the other 6 commandments, but rather its own distinct mitzvah. The Rambam, or Ramban, argues that the commandment of dinim enjoins the Gentile nations to create laws that address basic issues related to the theft, finances, and general governance. 2, even if we grant the Rambam's interpretation of dinim, the people of Shechem would still not incur the death penalty since they neglected to fulfill their responsibility. One would incur the death penalty for an act of transgression, not simple passivity. The Or Hakshem for Genesis 34:25, however, suggests that the men of the city would actively stand up to define their leader and perhaps even played a role in her abduction. Look, if you read this part, all in Genesis, what happened with those 2, maybe she was overpowered, maybe she was raped, she got herself into a situation, she was drunk, it got to be more than she could handle. I highly doubt all the men there really knew what was going on. Keep another thing in mind too, folks. Shechem and his father were the ones in charge. They were the big cheese, okay? It's not that easy. It's not that simple for a bunch of men just to get together right away and say, hey, we're stopping you. Life does not work that way. By the time there's an overthrow of a nation, and that has happened in history, many things have happened for many years before. Continuing on, number 3, finally, the fact that Yaakov, as in Jacob, chastises his 2 sons for their actions would indicate to us that their actions were not justified, meaning that at least the men of Shechem were not deserving of death. Actually, I would agree with that. The Qassam Sofer, Volume 6, Number 14, suggests a third approach, which he attempts to attribute to the Rambam, in which he distinguishes between being deserving of death versus actually being liable to the death penalty. He bases this on the following passage of the Mishnah Torah, Law of Kings and Wars, chapter 10, verse 9. Look, folks, when I'm reading some of this stuff, and you can get into the right here, Law of Kings and Wars, I'm not telling you not to read it, but you better be very careful with it. Okay, we don't know how credible it really is. A Gentile who studies the Torah is obligated to die. I've told you folks this before. If you're reading, especially the commandments of, in Exodus chapter 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5, they're supposed to physically stop you from doing that. You're not privileged. You are animals. You are obligated to be stopped and in certain cases to be executed, as in be unalived or, as in decapitated. That is in the sub-laws of the 7 Noahide laws. They should be involved in the study of their 7 mitzvot. Similarly, a Gentile who rests, even on a weekday, observing that day as a Sabbath, is obligated to die. Needless to say, he is obligated for that punishment if he creates a festival for himself. The general principle governing these nations is they are not to be allowed to originate a new religion or create mitzvot for themselves based on their own decisions. They may either become righteous converts and accept all the mitzvot or retain their statutes without adding or detracting from them. If a Gentile studies the Torah, makes a Sabbath, or creates a religious practice, a Jewish court should strike him, punish him, and inform him that he's obligated to die. However, he is not to be executed. Okay? See, they're starting to go back and forth right here. According to the Rambam, when our sages, or you can in English just say, I'm trying to remember now. Never mind. Anyway, be quiet, Deb. According to the Rambam, when our sages teach that a Gentile studies Torah or observes Shabbos, that's another way to say Shabbat, folks. You can say Shavuos or Shabbos, is liable to the death penalty. What they really mean is that he is deserving of death. However, it is not actionable in rabbinic court. Well, right now, it's not in the United States yet. Therefore, Shimon and Levi were perhaps right insofar that the men of the city deserved death, but Yaakov was ultimately correct, since their passivity would not make them culpable to receive the actual death penalty. In either event, I need to look up something too while I'm reading this. In either event, if Shimon and Levi's were justified in killing the male adults, why would it be acceptable for them to plunder the spoils? After all, the children were spared. Since the children were spared, they should naturally inherit their father's estates. See Kiddushin 17b. The Or Hashem, for chapter 34, verse 25, answers that the Torah states in Genesis 34, 27, because their sister had been defiled, to indicate that the property that Shimon and Levi plundered constituted a restitution for the humiliation, the boshes that Dinah and her family endured. Well, they kind of got to take care of the children. They're pretty helpless and they don't know anything. That being said, folks, hold on. I'm trying to see if I can find this. The scribes, that's what I meant. Yes. Okay. My bad. I want to apologize for that. Sages is scribes, basically. Now, that being said, folks, just so you know, So that being said, I think I should continue on here. But anyway, however, this justification is incongruous with the age-old Talmudic principle of Kim Leab Derabah Minay, which means that when one commits a sin that incurs two different punishments, the courts only administers the harsher punishment. In our case, if we presume that the men of Shechem were liable to the death penalty, then Shimon and Levi should have no right to also seize their property for recompense. One answer to assume that only Jews benefit from the principle of Kim Leab Derabah Minay, and that a Gentile could indeed incur both consequences. However, this is subject to a medieval dispute. See Rashi and Tosefos on Eruvin 62a. Now, before I continue on, Rabbi Rashi was much later down the road. I think he was around the 1600s. I know I've read a lot of his stuff in the past, and he was really messed up. He would just, even other rabbis and Jewish Karaite Hakims admitted he lied about things blatantly at times. Just so you know. So be careful if you read Rabbi Rashi stuff. As such, our Mordecai, Karlabach refrains Shimon and Levi's actions as not that of a court regulating internal society matters, but as two nations at war against each other. During a time of war, many of the laws that generally govern a society are inoperable. For instance, the principle against endangering one's life, entering a makam sakana, naturally does not apply to war. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a country to defend itself. See Menchas Kemuk 42. 425, 3. The subject of taking an attractive woman from the battlefield is described in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verses 10 through 14, is another case in point. Thus, Yaakov's family would have been permitted to plunder. See Mishnah Torah, Laws of Kings and Wars, chapter 6, verse 4, without concern, since they were not facilitating a judicial ruling, but were engaging in a wartime operation. This harrowing narrative serves as a microcosm for exploring how Judaism relates to honor, victimhood, vengeance, and so much more. Like many instances in the Torah, we have only touched the tip of the iceberg. Okay? Now, a lot of this stuff is contrary to the literal Torah itself that Moshe received from Yud-He, Vav-He, blessed be his name. I've read it I don't know how many times in my life. We're almost through it on my live streams now, again. All right? There were no Jews back then. I do believe that Shechem and his father Hamor were deserving of death. I'll be honest. I've always liked that. I believe that Jacob or Yaakov was wrong in that. Taking out the whole people, I'm sure there has to be some good out of it. God let it happen. But do I agree it was the right thing for Simon, and Levi to do that? Simeon, I should say, in English? No. I don't think so. That's just me. So let me get rid of this. Now I'll show you this. No, actually I won't yet. Let me cancel that for now. I want to get into this because you have to understand in the Talmud, both Talmuds really, Jerusalem and Babylonian, although I'm much more self-educated on reading the Babylonian. And there are significant parts of the Jerusalem Talmud that were integrated in with the Babylonian folks. It's very clear in the Torah to me, and I am going to go ahead and put this up. just so you people can see it. I will read it to you, and you can read and follow along right here with me. I don't normally do this. Let's go to Bamidbar, or in English, simply put, it's Numbers, and it's in chapter 15. And now this is my favorite when I use the sojourners, the strangers, whatever. This is my favorite chapter to go to out of the Torah. Okay. Oops. Hold on, if I can even. Maybe I can't. Okay. And if a stranger sojourn with you, or whosoever be among you in your generations, and will offer an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord, as ye do, so he shall do. Verse 15, one ordinance shall be both for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you, an ordinance forever in your generations as ye are, so shall the stranger be before the Lord. We're not talking literal sacrifices. It's you are under this contract, folks. If you're in Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, you're in this contract. It's up to you if you want to walk away from it, or if you want to endure to the end and make it to the 8th day. But everybody who had a heart for God that became a part of it have the same consequences, good or bad. Now let's go to verse 16. One law and one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourneth with you. Let's move down. Let's go to verse 24 and read on down. Then it shall be, if aught be committed by ignorance without the knowledge of the congregation, that all the congregation shall offer one young bullock for a burnt offering for a sweet savor unto the Lord, with his meat offering and his drink offering according to the manner, and one kid of the goats for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for all the congregation of the children of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them, for it is ignorance. And they shall bring their offering, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord for their ignorance. Verse 26, this is key. And it shall be forgiven all the congregation of the children of Israel and the stranger that sojourneth among them, seeing all the people were in ignorance. Continuing on to verse 29. You shall have one law for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them. But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Because he hath despised the word of the Lord, and hath broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off. His iniquity shall be upon him. All right. And then it continues on where somebody was caught using, picking up sticks on the Shabbat, and he was unalived. Let me, let's see. I'll just get rid of it this way. Okay. Now, that being said, I don't want to stop there. We're going to, it's all over in the Torah, and anyway, let me get it up on the live stream. I will, all right. So, evidently there's a few people watching. That's a good thing. Let's do this. Now, when you go to Leviticus chapter 24, and again, there's instructions that were getting pretty intense for all of the Israelites and the strangers alike that were a part of this, that agreed to the covenant, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, it's right here. Anyway. Oh, no, wait, it's not. I'm thinking Exodus. But anyway, let's continue on with Leviticus chapter 24. Let's start with verse 15. And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, whosoever curseth his God shall bear his sin, and he that blasphemeth the name of the Lord, he shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation shall certainly stone him, as well the stranger as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of the Lord, shall be put to death. Okay, the stranger is involved in that. He's included, he or she. And he that killeth any man shall surely be put to death. And he that killeth a beast shall make it good, beast for beast. And if a man cause a blemish in his neighbor, as he hath done, so shall it be done to him. Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, as he hath caused a blemish in a man, so shall it be done to him again. And he that killeth a beast, he shall restore it. And he that killeth a man shall be put to death. Ye shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger as for one of your country, for I am the Lord your God. All right. Again, the stranger, it's all included in here. So get rid of that. And let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 1. Let me find it exactly. Okay, yeah, I got it right. Let's go to Deuteronomy here, Devarim in Hebrew. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 1. Let's start with verse 15. So I took the chief of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds, and captains over 50s, and captains over 10s, and officers among your tribes. And I charged your judges at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. Okay, and this is barely touching the surface, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, so that being said, I mean, I could, well, here, actually, I am thinking of something here. Let's go to Genesis, back to that. When the actual law or instruction of circumcision came into effect. And this was a Hebrew, not a Jew. I will put it on the screen, and I will start reading from verse 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, as in El Shaddai. Walk before me and be thou perfect, as in complete, ladies and gentlemen. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Well, there you have it right there. But let's keep going. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee, and I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, and their generations, for an everlasting covenant. That's forever, folks. That's olam. Or in Greek, I think it would be eon. Covenant to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be, and I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto me that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, born in the house, and bought with the money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. Now you notice how when I get to these verses, I get louder on specific verses, ladies and gentlemen. So, and I just cut out a piece of information. Oops. Sorry. Let's see what I can do here. Let me look. I am trying to figure out what the heck I did. Well, whatever. I mean, look, folks, this is very simple to me because I've studied it for so long. And to be honest with you, when I first started pursuing my Jewish heritage, I was a Christian at one time. I was very devout. I persevered. I was zealous. I was passionate. And I started learning because I was adopted as an infant. And when I found out, I mean, my parents were always good that said that, you know, we kids were adopted. They didn't know by whom. Yeah, I mean, they adopted us, but they didn't know whom the parents were of any of us, of 3 kids. I didn't find them out who they were until 19 years old. And that being said, folks, I pursued it in history, you know, a chronological line, both my adopted and my chronological line. And lo and behold, I was Jewish French. Now that I did that when I was 24 years old. And but it didn't mean, I mean, it was important to me, but I didn't care about the Jewish French thing. And so I didn't start doing that until 13 years ago. Something moved me to do it. I ran into someone accidentally, I guess, but I think God meant it. It was Michael Rood with A Rude Awakening. And I knew scriptures more than well enough to where I knew if he'd be bullshitting or not. And I don't think he was, you know. He's a sensationalist, I'll give you that. He's quite the drama king, but he has a lot of truth to his teachings. I do recommend you to go to A Rude Awakening. I don't really watch his Saturday Night Lives, Shabbat Night Lives anymore. I probably should, but I don't. But go to his archives, go to his playlists, and you can learn a lot. Because this no nonsense, folks, is exactly that. And if you're caught doing anything, you know, if look, we have Exodus chapter 20, we have Deuteronomy chapter 5. I read them, Deuteronomy 5, what, a couple, 3 days ago, whatever it was, the 10 Commandments. Right now, you're not being physically stopped. Okay. That being said, folks, I think I've given you this already. Yeah, established courts of justice. Let's take a look at that, shall we? Oh, that's what I did. That's what I accidentally clicked out. Oopsie. Okay. Date the Noahide graduates are to receive their. Hold on. I got to do this differently. Hold on. Noahide judges are to receive their, we'll just say, diplomas in Israel. Let's see what we got. Okay. Let's take a look at this. I'll share it. And Trump is a part of this. He's not graduating, I mean, but he's all for this and advocating for it. No, I heard that part of the conversation. I'll correct that in a little bit. That guy was wrong. Diplomas and organizational framing for international Noahide representatives and delegates are set to be officially presented during the first International Noahide Congress in Jerusalem, scheduled for November 2 or 2nd to November the 6th of 2026. The location will be in Jerusalem of Israel, the now capital. Now, that I'm not really against, folks. I'm glad that Trump did that during his first term in and of itself, instead of, got it out of Tel Aviv. Anyway, it's just a deception of it and what the agenda is. Key recognition: the final day of the gathering features delegates meeting at the official presidential residence, the Beit Hanasai, to present the movement's charter and formal recognitions. Sponsoring bodies organized by Brit Olam, Noahide, World Centered, digital certifications and coursework are managed via platforms like the Noahide Academy. Okay. Now, a lot of people may not think this is a big deal either. And you're going to hear some thoughts about, predictions from me, because they're coming from all over the country, folks. They've been taking these classes. Supposedly they're qualified Noahide judges. And you've already heard me read some things about how, it can be punishable by death. You think it won't get to that? Well, that being said, What I'm saying is that they are implementing this slow but sure, and it can come to that. And I believe, I'm speculating, making some predictions, maybe. I don't want to make a prophetic. I don't want to make. I don't want to claim a prophecy because, again, I would be deserving. I would deserve to be unalive for this if I'm wrong in any timeline or even on any part of the situation. I'm just guessing that over time, even our American judges will eventually be replaced by Noahide judges. Slow but sure, it'll go from state to state. Some states will accept it a lot quicker because a lot of American judges, even ridiculous judges, will not go for that nonsense. Anything that a Gentile or a non-Jew is declared guilty of in the Noahide laws is deserving to be unalived. That's just the way it is. That's them. Second, then you have others that maybe turn their backs on the Jewish claim, which if you have an idol such as Yeshua, like I do, they'll probably come down even more swift. Also, if that ruling comes, and it's capital punishment, which that's the only result if you're guilty with Noahide laws, then you're to be decapitated that day. Okay, they don't wait around for that. So I think over time they'll retire judges or get them out of there in whatever way, and the ones that fight it harder, they'll somehow mysteriously be unalived themselves. Accidents, somehow unalive in their sleep when go to bed one night, whatever. That's just my guess. It'll take a period of a few years. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope we never get it and do that. I mean, to give you an example, folks, and I'll put this under because I made sure to look for it, because Paula White, she's President Trump's main spiritual advisor. She has some dumb little office in the White House. Well, she's been over into the state of Israel. All right. She's been studying under a female rabbi. Now, in the real Torah, it doesn't read that women can't be rabbis. The word rabbi is not even in the Torah. But men are in charge. That's the way it is. The daughter is under her father's authority until she goes and gets married, and then it's the man or her husband. All right. Paula White studied Torah with Rebbetzin Shani Tarragon, a prominent Orthodox female Torah scholar and educated. I'm sorry, my tongue is going Ari again. Paula White studied Torah with Rebbetzin Shani Tarragon, a prominent Orthodox female Torah scholar and educator, during a trip to Israel. Now, I've already read that, but the scholar part. Rebbetzin Shani Tarragon. Context, part of an Orthodox Torah study experience in Israel, which also included visiting Nishmat, which is the Genie Schatzenstein Center for Advanced Torah Study for Women. Focus, understanding Jewish roots and texts to bridge relationships between Christians and Orthodox Jews. If you would like, I can provide more information. Okay. What's this? Take a look. Trump's faith advisor. Christians must learn from Jews, not convert them. Well, that's contrary to scripture right there. I do believe that President Trump was God's answer. To so much prayer, she said, and he was and is appointed by God to lead America. Okay, you can read that article on your own time. It's from the Jerusalem Post. All right. So there you have it. Let me get rid of that. I have so many windows open, folks. Now, that being said, how did the state of Israel come to be? And I do believe that God set it up, even though there are so many of my Jewish counterparts that I believe are so wicked. There's, whether there's so many people here in America, they're just as wicked. Let's take a look at that, shall we? All right. Because it wasn't just one agreement, folks. There's a lot of stuff that added up to it. And then after World War II, they got it done. All right. Now, this comes from the Office of the Historian, U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Administration, milestones. Okay. Of Israel, 1948. On May 14th, now that would have been a Friday, 1948, May 14th of 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the head of the Jewish Agency, proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel. U.S. President Harry S. Truman recognized the new nation on the same day. Although the United States supported the Balfour Declaration in 1917, which favored the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine, President Franklin D. Roosevelt had assured the Arabs in 1945 that the United States would not intervene with consulting both the Jews and the Arabs in that region. The British, who held a colonial mandate for Palestine until 1948, opposed both the creation of a Jewish state and an Arab state in Palestine, as well as unlimited immigration of Jewish refugees to the region. Great Britain wanted to preserve good relations with the Arabs to protect its vital political and economic interests in Palestine. Soon after President Truman took office, he appointed several experts to study the Palestine issue. In the summer of 1946, Truman established a special cabinet committee under the chairmanship of Dr. Henry F. Grady, an assistant secretary of state, who entered into negotiations with a parallel British committee to discuss the future of Palestine. In May 1946, Trump announced his approval of a recommendation to admit 100,000 placed persons into Palestine, and in October, publicly declared his support for the creation of a Jewish state. Throughout 1947, the United Nations Special Commission on Palestine examined the Palestinian question and recommended the partition of Palestine into a Jewish and an Arab state. On November 29, 1947, the United Nations adopted Resolution 181, also known as the Partition Resolution, that would divide Great Britain's former Palestinian mandate into Jewish and Arab states. In May 1948, when the British mandate was scheduled to end. Under the resolution, the area of religious significance surrounding Jerusalem would remain corpus separatum, or you can say separatum, doesn't matter, under international control administered by the United Nations. Although the United States backed Resolution 181, the U.S. Department of State recommended the creation of a United Nations trusteeship with limits on Jewish immigration and a division of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab provinces, but not states. The State Department, concerned about the possibility of an increasing Soviet role in the Arab world and the potential for restriction by Arab oil-producing nations of oil supplies to the United States, advised against U.S. intervention on behalf of the Jews. Later, as the date for British departure from Palestine drew near, the Department of State grew concerned about the possibility of an all-out war in Palestine as Arab states threatened to attack almost as soon as the UN passed the partition resolution. Despite growing conflict between Palestinian Arabs and Palestinian Jews, and despite the Department of State's endorsement of a trusteeship, Truman ultimately decided to recognize the state Israel. Now, I will tell you this again, folks. I do believe this was God-breathed, even though there was a lot of evil things to it, an agenda. Just to drive the people out was pretty wicked the way they did it. People had been established there for a long time. Okay, they could have done it a lot more nicely than they did. So, but I'm giving you this information. Again, I'm going to be, I'm sure, I'm probably going to be accused of a lot of anti-Semitism, and I'm not. More than anything, I want the 7.5 to 8.5 million people, citizens of Israel, to receive the true Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua. I really do. And I also wish that for every other nation. I wish it for America here, the nation I was born in Wilmer, Minnesota. That being said, folks, my wife got some information from another person, and I don't remember what part of the Talmud it's in. I will look it up, but basically that being Jewish or Hebrew, Israelite, whatever, comes from the mother, the placenta. Look, I'm not going to say that the mother didn't have anything to do with it. Obviously, she did. It takes two to tango, without giving TMI here. But I go by the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm putting the mother chronology in determining a person being Jewish. Oops, let's get rid of that. In Talmud. I read all this stuff and I didn't memorize it. I used to own the Talmud, by the way, and I lost it through traveling all over the country. Yes, here it is. I will go ahead and share this. But I mainly go by my primary here is going by the scriptures themselves. Earthly fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Plain and simple. All right. Now let's share this. And when people say it's the mother, it's the placenta, well, yeah, I mean, she bore you, and I respect that. I get it. The mother and the father together, I'm even willing to go with that. But primarily, here's what it reads. In the Talmud, a person's Jewish identity is determined by matrilineal descent. Okay, that's not patro. In other words, it's the women's line, meaning the child of a Jewish mother is Jewish, and the child of a non-Jewish mother is not Jewish, regardless of the father. The formalization of this rule is established and accepted without debate in tractates like Kiddushin 68b and Yevamot 23a. Now, if you're looking at this, look it up on your own time. I'm not here to give Talmudic instruction, teachings. I hate it with a passion. There's even some real good things in the Talmud, folks. I can tell you that. But on a practical level, I don't need it. The Lord gave me the scriptures. He gave me the Ruach HaKodesh to discern, and discussions with people who don't have, see again, look where it's coming from too, to show you that it's in the Talmud. The Chabad, again, probably the most powerful Jewish organization that I know of today, currently. All right. Right here. Why is Jewish matrilineal? The Code of Jewish Law clearly states that a child of a Jewish mother is Jewish, regardless of the father's lineage or whatever else may show up in a DNA test. While the child of a non-Jewish mother is not Jewish, matrilineal descent has been a fundamental principle of Torah since the Jewish came into existence. Well, they need to prove that to me. They need to show me in the real Torah and the scriptures where this is true. and they cannot do it. Anyway, if your father is Jewish but not your mother, please see to a child of a Jewish father. Some aspects of Judaism, like the priesthood, are clearly patrilineal. Okay, they're talking to fathers here. See patrilineal descent in Judaism below. But the entry line into Jewishness has always been through the mother or conversion. No, it has not. There is no proof of that one way or... I mean, we could keep going into this. All right. Something's wrong here. Hold on, let me get this. I got it. It doesn't want to leave. Okay, I'll just unlive it here. You guys can't even see it, can you? Yes. Can you? Okay. Oh, it did. I just took it a little bit. Okay, the internet is lagging on me then. That being said, folks, I hate studying this stuff, folks. I studied it. It worked for me. I mean, it made me kind of loopy. And I kind of put it out of my mind for a while. I always knew it was there. But now that we have the Noahide laws coming in, people being encouraged nicely right now anyway to accept this, the 7 Noahide laws. Look, you're dogs, you're animals, you're subhuman to them. I'm worse than that because I'm turning on them. Let's go. Let's look up some more scriptures. I'm going to get this on here. We'll go to good old trusty Bible Gateway here. Let's read, shall we? Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of God, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the Holy Scriptures, concerning his son Jesus Christ our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh. Okay, well, King David was a man. Patriarch right there. And declared to be the Son of God with power according to the Spirit of holiness by the resurrection from the dead, by whom we have received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith among all nations for his name, among whom ye are also called of Jesus Christ. To all that be in Rome, beloved of God, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you also always in my prayers, making request, if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end ye may be established. That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me. Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I proposed to come unto you, but was let hitherto that I might have some fruit among you also, even as among other Gentiles. Well, there we go. I'm a debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise. So as much as in me is, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. For therein is the righteousness of God from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Now you need to look up faith in the Greek too, because if you're living by faith, you're being obedient, folks. Please do not get that screwed up. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shewed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served served the creator more than served the creature more than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable and unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Well, look, okay, I read all 32 verses of Romans, which would be Romaims in Hebrew, chapter 1, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. We were given the oracles of God. If you are a Gentile and you are a part of our covenant, you are included. You are a Jew inwardly. Yes. That being said, I know it does. Thank you, Deb. That being said, folks, to the Jew first and then to the Greek, we were given the oracles of God, as I just stated. And they are perverting it with the Talmud. They are perverting it with the Noahide laws in the Talmud. They are perverting it by doing takanot, the authority to change or negate biblical law and the rest of the Bible, frankly, to put it simply. All right? I'm just saying. It's not that hard to figure out. So, a lot of people have problems with Paul's letters to him, and I don't. I don't care about them really that much. I do and I don't. I mean, they're good reads. Just I don't want you to get all boneheaded on me here, saying that I'm saying Paul's a heretic. I'm not. I'm really not. But here's the thing, and I can explain some of this. When you look at Acts chapters 10 and 11, okay, and that's where Peter got his vision, Kepha in Hebrew. And it was a Gentile, ladies and gentlemen. And it's 48 verses for Acts chapter 10. I'd be more than happy to read it. Maybe I should. It's another 30 verses in Acts chapter 11. Maybe I should. Because people think that's a new thing. You see, well, I just read to you in the Torah how many minutes ago? And Numbers 15, and so Deuteronomy 1, and whatever. Genesis 17. No, it was nothing new. And when it comes down to it, there's nothing new under the sun anyway. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9, I believe. That being said, folks, you're looking. It's just that they hadn't been told yet. Paul knew it. He was a Pharisee, a Prushim. Kepha was not. He got his basic Torah teaching when he was a boy. He was graduated at 12 years old, I think, back then. And he went on to be a fisherman. until Yeshua got a hold of him and made him a fisher of men. But he was not educated. Okay, he was not educated like Paul, and he didn't have all this available to him like we do. Back then, it was kind of like the Catholics in the Dark Ages, reading the liturgy and all that, and in Latin, with the people could only speak English. They couldn't even read it. Some could, but most of them could not. I mean, that's a powerful position to be in, where corrupt things happen really fast, really extreme. And that's what was going on with the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, or sages, that you could say, the lawyers, whatever. And they had all this power. Even though Peter knew how to read, he didn't have access to be studying other things. One, he wasn't allowed. He just wasn't good enough, according to them. Two, he had an occupation. He was busy already anyway. I goes a fishing, right? And that's why Peter got that vision. So I could go over this all day. I've been going for over an hour. I think over 76 minutes. You know what? And here's another thing, too, and I could get into other subjects. All right, fine, I'll get rid of it. I want to give you some corrections on scriptures themselves. This is really necessary, I think. Good. In fact, we'll go back, because this is where people can get screwed up, and you need to know this. It's kind of offbeat. I get that. But this is where people get screwed, where they get fooled and saying, bless Israel, curse Israel, you will be blessed, or you will be cursed. Here's we'll just keep it in English, and I will put this up. Let me get it up here. Then we read this. Now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee all families of the earth shall be blessed. That actually is pretty accurate right there. I will bless you, Abraham, and those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. Let's look this up a little bit, but there's one I'm looking at. Because they try to apply this to the state of Israel. All right. All right. Now, obviously, at that current time, with Baalim and Belial and that, yes, they did get cursed. Okay. I think those. Even here, it's putting it pretty accurately, because there's a lot of translations. I'll tell you what, let's do it this way. Let's go to Bible Hub, shall we? Does it have, yeah, here. Bible Hub also. All right. The Lord said, forget the NIV. Let's do King James or the New King James here. Now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. Why am I having problems here? Okay. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Now, here's the problem with it. Right here. I don't care which one you use. We can go to King James for the onlyest, I guess. They're talking about Israel, so they think. And really it should be, I will bless you, Abraham. Which you read that already. And those who bless you will be blessed. They're not necessarily talking about Israel. As a matter of fact, look, be realistic about it. Think about it those who bless Abraham, those who curse Abraham, they'll be blessed or cursed. That's the point I'm trying to get across to you. That's all I'm trying to do. So, you go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, and we'll be reading that in the live streams fairly soon. And there's 68 verses. Okay. The first 14 verses of being obedient and the blessings they'll get for it. The next 54 verses of it, starting with verse 15, is what their results will be for being disobedient. And they did all that. Do you really think God would want people to bless a nation of people that are being that blatantly disobedient, folks? That makes no sense. None. Nada. But now to get more back to the Talmud, the Noahide laws that are not at all backed up in Scripture. You can go to Jubilees chapter 7, verse 20 for 7 laws, folks. And they're a lot better than the Noahide, 7 Noahide laws. And I don't have to have them. I can, I had no problem with them, really. But that being said, let me tell you something about the Noahide laws in the Talmud. Someone who's Jewish and I've read this, and I think I know I have in another live stream, folks, where in the Torah it reads that, when they take things in war like women, they can only be virgin women, period. If they're women that were already not non-virgins, they were to be unalived. And if they were to be, they were not to take them in the Talmud, and I know I read it specifically from whatever parts of it, and I don't remember which live stream. You'll just have to look for it if you want it. When you read that in the Talmud, they can take other men's married wives, and you can take them for their own. Well, that's contrary. That's opposite to the Torah right there. In the Torah, a Jew can rape a non-Jew. A male Jew can rape a non-Jew. Okay. That being said, folks, but if, why? Because, and the woman's to be put to death, the Gentile woman, the non-Jewish woman. You know why? Well, frankly, because they're to be they're looked at as subhuman. They're looked at as animals. So when you look in the Torah and it reads that the animal is to be put to death, and the human, the man, or the person that did unseemly things. Well, that Jewish woman or that non-Jewish woman is looked at as an animal, plain and simple. Maybe if a Jew is found guilty of stealing from a non-Jewish person, they might have to pay it back with a little interest, and even that can be let go of. That Jewish man or woman can be acquitted. Either way, they're not going to get the capital punishment. These are all in there, and I need to bring them out as long as I'm still allowed to do it. A lot, this takes a lot of research. You got to really dig for it, and I don't have the books like I used to. But you know what my counterparts really what they are to me? Well, I'll go ahead and share it. Give me a second. It takes a few seconds here. And I don't care if you are a Gentile, if you're not of the Levitical tribe like I evidently am. It doesn't matter to me. If you're not with Jesus Christ, this is you as well as somebody who's claiming to be some Jewish expert. We'll use the King James, no problem. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Let's continue. Revelation, which is Hazon in Hebrew. Revelation chapter 3, verse 9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. I know this is hard, folks.
It's all right there. Let the truth set you free.
Okay, my wife found something. Please read this, dear. I just found this information. The original command not to intermarry with surrounding nations is given in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3. Well, yeah, it is. The specific historical account where leadership broke this rule and were rebuked, though involving the leaders, rulers, and priests of Judah rather than the later Sanhedrin, is found in Nehemiah, which I think you say Nehemiah in English. Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 25, and Ezra chapter 9, verse 2. The original command and violation is the command given Deuteronomy chapter 7, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 3 and 4. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them, thy daughter. Thou shalt not give unto a son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, and they may serve other mighty ones or gods. The breach and rebuttal. Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 25, and I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them and plucked off their hair and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons and for yourselves. Ezra chapter 9, verse 2, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers was chief in their trespass. Okay, these are great scriptures, and I've read them all before. I could probably explore folks, there's so many rabbinical writings out there. It's mind-boggling. I can tell you right now, intellectually, they make those cemeteries as our shortcut, because they're wicked too. They are seminaries. They make them look like child's play. I'll tell you what, my Jewish counterparts they're no joke. They have money, they have power, they're influencing people. They're using mixing in with the Muslims with their Sharia law and so on. And what are you going to do? I mean, it's up to you what choice you want to, how you want to do this. Are you going to stand up for Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, for his truth? Even when he came down in the flesh and had his earthly ministry, a lot of you believe 3.5 years. Maybe you're right. I believe it's 70 weeks, which is 490 days. until he went finally up to finally sit with the right hand of the Father. Either way, what are you going to do? I mean, he taught, and this is right in the Gospels, not all of it, but I mean, a lot of it where, hey, why do your disciples break the commandments of men? Well, that's later. That's in the Talmuds later down the road when they wrote it. Not them. They were dead, but you get my picture. You get my point. Well, why do you break the commandments of God? Why do you break the instructions? The Torah is basically what he was saying. He's trying to get them back on track. Yes, go through him, the mediator, the prophet, the unique or begotten Son of God, our king, our high priest of the Melchizedek, ladies and gentlemen. And, and to get back to the basic, to the instructions that are true, that are perfect as in they're complete, they're whole. We don't need bullshit Gentile cemetery readings and what they do with their liturgies and what they do, with their prayer books. I mean, some can be good, but when they start putting their eisegesis in, we have a problem here. And we definitely don't need it from my Jewish counterparts and their rabbinical writings. So I think I've said more than enough. Is there something you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one reason with those scriptures that he just brought out, plus the other one about talking about from the Father, which was King David's lineage. Yeah. And that's why Yeshua told the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, that they were of their father, the devil, because they went against what God told them to do, not mix with other foreign nations. Therefore, to the modern day people now, that is why they're choosing the bloodline of the fathers, not of the mothers.
Well, not only that, folks, but now it includes any of you, and doesn't matter what your chronological line is.
It doesn't.
But are you in Jesus Christ?
That's what makes you
okay. Deborah Hebrew Faith here and I.
Israel.
Deborah Hebrew Faith here. Deborah Hebrew Faith and I here. We have different chronological lines, but we are evenly yoked. Okay, we have the same God. We have the same beliefs. We have the same will.
Okay? And I'm the stranger that sojourned. Therefore, I am.
We are
part of Abraham's blood.
Yeah, we are unified. We are evenly yoked in that.
I am Israel.
Yes, she is Israel.
But you want to get to the crazy stuff about
no, I guess since I've railed so hard, I actually will bring up one more thing and I'll compare and refer. Because you cemeterians or whatever, you loosey goosey greasy gracie. Sloppy goppy Christians need to start getting some things straight because you're not doing this at all yet. Now I'm going to bring up, because I have these scriptures memorized. I mean, if I didn't have Yeshua as my Mashiach, I would look at a lot of greasy Christians and go, no way. And that's what a lot of my Jewish counterparts are doing, and I don't blame them. Now, they have moved me to jealousy, which with that which is not God, they have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Well, Christians, you're not doing that a very good job yet. Now, it should be fulfilled one day. Now, off the top of my head, Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 21, you can compare and refer with Romans 10:19 off the top of my head. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. Yeah, we need more coffee. Also, too, folks, you can also do this one off the top of my head. I'm hungry, too, to be honest. If there's anything you can make up. Romans chapter 11, verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation has come unto the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy. Folks, if I did not have my steadfast faith, my tenacity, my endurance that God gave me and that I practice, the Gentiles would have nothing I want. Well, not nothing. It just depends on which Gentile. Obviously, I mean, God knows how many goyim have. My Jewish counterparts rail on me because I'm a turncoat. I'm treasonous, supposedly. And a lot of goyim Gentiles, they have gone, saying that I'm a doctrine of devils. I'm a false teacher. I'm, a legalistic guy, and I'm on my way to the lake of fire. And I could go on and on. I mean, the whole thing sucks. I have no insecurities about it. I could, care. I mean, but it bothers me that a lot of people, let's be honest. I mean, there are a lot of people who have a poor understanding of scripture, but they're great examples and stuff. And then they get intimidated and scared by people who have studied a little bit more and, bring it across to them in such a mean-spirited manner, not in love. So you seminarians and you Christians that read your King James Bibles, you need to get with it. And I think you will. Some of you will. I mean, I do believe that scripture I just read. It just hasn't come into effect. Like I said, you've given me nothing to be jealous about for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a believer in Yeshua HaMashiach. Two, I believe the scriptures are true. I don't need your help. But you've given my Jewish counterparts nothing to motivate them, to entice them, to make them jealous. They look at you and laugh. And sometimes I do too. And it's a sad deal. Okay, folks, look, I've been on here long enough.
There's just one last thing I want to say.
Okay, go ahead.
We're all called, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive him. And there is no Jew nor Greek, no bond nor free, no male nor female. We are all his if we take his son. Yep.
You accept Jesus Christ. And then you can have a relationship with the Father. Don't just go around saying all you need is Jesus. You have John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. Well, obviously the Father wants to have some kind of connection with you.
You deny me, I deny me.
And there's a protocol through Jesus Christ. Okay, now I really am done. I've been on for almost an hour and 40 minutes, almost 100 minutes here.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom to everyone. Today is our day that God gave to us. The Sabbath, the Shabbat was made for man, not man for the Shabbat. And I am truly, eternally, profusely grateful for that. All right, folks. Peace. Shalom. The Levite man and his loving wife, Deborah Hebrew Faith. We're out of here.